When the college football playoff rankings dropped, I was really excited to look to see all the ACC teams that were in there, and it didn't take me long to find them.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. On this episode, we'll talk about the key football matchups for Week 11 coming up this weekend. We'll talk about the SEC and Big Ten bias that goes into this college football playoff ranking and whether it's fair or unfair, because obviously we do know who the two strongest conferences are, but is it proportional to what we're actually getting here? He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. Kenton, give me your hottest take when you look at this first batch of college football playoff rankings.
Bama even being in contention to make the college football playoff is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever, and when I say ever, I mean ever, seen in terms of college football. Bama getting in is worse than the Florida State snub, and I mean that, because that means not only are they getting in, they're not even the last team in. They're not even the last team in, which if you want to get technical, technically they would be, because Boise State is the highest ranking group of 5. And if they became champions, then technically speaking, Bama would be the last team in. But by rankings, if we said, hey, you got 12 spots, these are your 12 slots, Bama is number 11. Now, Dono, I got a question for you. And in the words of Mary J. Blige, I got a question for you, and I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you go out there and you lose 25% of the games you play, if you go out there 8 times, and lose 2 of them, how the hell can you be one of the best 11 teams in the nation?
Because you're Bama. I mean, what else is there to say? What else is there to say? And you know, and when I'm watching the way that the media is spinning this, you know, with Bama, as you mentioned, number 11, despite a 6-2 record, they're in the college football playoff if the season ended today. So I'm watching this this ESPN hit with ESPN's Heather Dinich, and and this was actually, she said this before the rankings came out, so she must have known something, or you know, maybe ESPN sent out the memo like, you guys need to hype up Bama, and she was talking about like Bama's losses and how, hey, that Vanderbilt loss, that's a quality loss now because Vanderbilt is bowl eligible, is what they were saying on ESPN. Hold on. So here's my hot take is a continuation of your hot take, because I feel really bad for SMU because they're on the outside looking in right now. Now the only ACC team that's in is Miami with the 4 seed. It's the only one that's in the top 12. And so, all right, so SMU, you're telling me that Bama with 2 losses, you're going to shine that turd because, you know, their worst loss was to a team that's now bowl eligible. SMU's got 1 loss, Kenton, and their 1 loss was to a team that's ranked number 8 in this college football playoff ranking.
Not only a team that's ranked number 8, that team's undefeated.
Yeah.
That team's undefeated.
Yeah.
Bama has not lost to a single undefeated team. Tennessee has a loss. Vanderbilt has multiple losses. So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Is this, are we being serious right now? Are we being, again, to what lengths will ESPN go? To what lengths will the CFP committee go to disrespect everybody, to kiss the throne of the SEC and the Big Ten? To what lengths? At a moment like this, and this here, I say Jim Phillips does a lot of things well. That's my guy. He does a lot of things well. But this here is a moment where he needs to be on TV. He needs to be on air. He needs to be calling in the first take. He needs to be calling in the fine ball. He needs to be calling in the ACC huddle. He needs to be calling everywhere, saying, So just so we all have the math right, losing to a team that lost to Georgia State, losing to that team, and losing again. And don't get me wrong, Tennessee is a hellified team. They're an amazing team. They're an amazing team. They're not the 85 Bears. They have a loss. No. Losing to those teams is better than one loss to one undefeated. Well, Ken, SMU doesn't have a win as good as Georgia. Okay. And is that all that matters here? Is that, hey, if you win one good game, the rest of your season doesn't matter anymore? Because if that's the case, Lincoln Riley's seat is cool, right? Lincoln Riley has a win over LSU. His seat's cool, right? No, because in reality, you look at the totality of what a team has done. But for the purposes of the CFP, for the purposes of ESPN, they will toil and twist and plot and scheme any way they can to say, oh, please, our darling dear babies in the SEC. You're so special. You're so pretty. You're the prettiest girl at the ball. Ew, get ACC out of here. What's that stench? It stinks, stunk soon as the ACC walked in here. Oh, this is awful. To say we're getting treated like a redhead stepchild is an understatement, because Child Protective Services would have came in. If anybody treated a redhead stepchild out of ACC, is being treated by the College Football Playoff Committee and ESPN at the moment.
As the CFP committee, like I know that like they were, transparent enough with the poor job that they did last year with the 14 playoff, where like they can at least admit that, hey, like we reserve the right to hold out Florida State, who deserve to be in, but we deserve the right because their most important player, their starting quarterback, was injured. They don't stand a chance with that. As much as it stinks, at least they were somewhat transparent with that. But like, are they going to come out and admit that so much of their ranking is based on who they think are going to be the best television draws? Because is that like that's the only way to explain. That's the only way to explain Bama being in. Because like I know that they could come out and say, well, hey, we still think Bama is better than a couple teams that are just outside. But like, how can you say that for sure when Vanderbilt was better than Bama on the day that they played them? Right. And Vanderbilt certainly, like, I'm happy for them that they're bowl eligible, but they're certainly not going to be in the college football playoffs. So it's like, if your argument is, hey, Bama would definitely beat all these teams behind them, how do you know that for sure? They didn't beat Vandy at home.
How? And here's the other part about it, right? I could understand if Bama's only loss was to Tennessee and everybody else, they were belt to behind, right? They were just whooping on folks. Okay, I get it. Yeah. I get it. But you lost to Vanderbilt. And not only did you lose to Vanderbilt, outside of Georgia, because Georgia is an extremely impressive win. I will give you that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Absolutely. Outside of Georgia, I mean, has there been another impressive win by them? Has there been another impressive win? You look at the rest of what they've done against their schedule, struggling against a UCF team, or USF team rather, that went on to get their doors blown off multiple times this season. But how impressive was that? Struggling against the South Carolina team that we've seen get their doors blown off. What are we doing? But I get it. Hey, it just means more in the SEC. It just means more. I need to know an explanation on how 2 losses, one of which to a team that already has 3 losses, sits in front of 1. I need to know how that 1 loss to an undefeated team knocks this team out of contention. But again, 1 win over Georgia is worth enough to cover up multiple losses. Yeah. Again, a quarter of your games have been losses, and we just sit here. Oh, that's fine. That's dandy. That's cool. Enough, man. Enough.
Well, when we come back, maybe you can help me with this, and you guys can help me with this in the comments. Like, because obviously there's still 3 weeks regular season, or 4 weeks regular season, because a lot of teams still have a bye, plus conference championships. Like, how likely is it that the ACC gets 2 teams into the playoff? Like 3, forget about. Like 3 is not going to happen based on this first batch of rankings. But can the ACC get 2 in? Because I really only see one likely scenario of how they could. And as a Miami guy, I don't like that scenario, but we'll talk about it when we come back. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're nowhere near done yet. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, I know your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through HIMS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping outside your door. Guys, ever feel like, you need a little boost in the bedroom? HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints, Viagra, Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. Process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the right ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved for or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety info. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Oh, my friends, we are also proudly brought to you by FanDuel. Oh, we've been having such a great time all football season long. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in one place to hit live bets on the NFL. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure you check out our other shows. Kenton and Grayson do an awesome job hosting Locked On Wolfpack. I host Locked On Canes. So when it comes to all things NC State and Miami Hurricanes, we have you covered. We cover the entire conference here on Locked On ACC. So pulling up this ranking again, Kenton, as we see the CFP standings, you've got Oregon, #1 at 9-0. Ohio State and Georgia, one loss. They're ahead of undefeated Miami, but it is what it is. We've already talked about all this stuff. Miami at #4, Texas at 5, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, who's 9-0, but they don't have even in the Big Ten, they don't have the branding that Ohio State and company have. BYU, the lone representative from the Big 12, is at #9. Notre Dame Independent at 10. Alabama at 11, and Boise State, the lone group of 5 representative, is at 12 right now. And all right, so Kenton, looking at right now, SMU at #13 on the outside looking in. Now, I'm sure that there are scenarios out there where could be possible upsets. I mean, any of the teams we talk about could suffer an upset before the season is over. There could be some cannibalization, conference championship games, and all that, but I would say, and I don't like this scenario, given my, where I went to school. But I would say the probably the only surefire way the ACC would get 2 teams in, Kenton, would be Miami goes 12-0 regular season. SMU goes 11-1. They meet in the ACC championship game, and SMU upsets Miami in the ACC title game, because you would think, you never know with the CFP poll, but you would think even if Miami loses the ACC championship game, if they're 12-1, they probably don't drop out of the top 12, and SMU winning the conference gets the automatic bid. Outside of that, maybe if Clemson's fortunate enough that they win out and a bunch of other teams lose, outside of that, the Miami SMU scenario, which I'm not rooting for as a Miami guy, I don't see too many ways the ACC gets more than 1 team in.
I'll tell you how the ACC gets more than 1 team in. The committee pulls their head out of their behinds and watches football. They stop voting with what they think and what feels good, what feels right, who feels like they should be a top 10 team? Who feels like it? Because I have questions about multiple teams, because I'm constantly told whenever I make the argument for SMU, the same argument that I was making for Pitt, people would always ask me questions about, well, who's their best win? Well, who's their best win? Well, who's their best win? And to that, I would simply respond, who's a lot of these teams' best wins?
Yeah.
Who's a lot of these teams' best wins? Notre Dame's best wins, Texas A&M. Hey, Texas A&M has looked up and down, hot and cold, yes and no. You want to know who their loss was to, though? You want to know who their loss was to, Dono? The mighty, the dominant Northern Illinois Huskies, who, by the way, tie into the show. They lost to the NC State Wolfpack.
I remember that. I watched both of those games. I watched them pull off the Notre Dame upset, and then I watched the mighty Wolfpack put them back in their place.
And at that time, the mighty Wolfpack could not figure out, they couldn't piss a drop on offense.
Yeah.
The offense was screen right to Kevin Concepcion, screen left to Kevin Concepcion. Oh, maybe we'll try to run Jordan Waters. Who knows? So the way that the ACC gets in 2 or more teams is by the committee watching football, not watching brands, not watching who they think is the best, not watching, well, this team has a blue chip ratio of, watch the damn ball games. We talk about the fact that Miami lives dangerously, but you know what Miami always does at the end of the game?
Win. Yeah.
You know who else lives dangerously? You know who else is pretty high up on that average third down distance chart? Granny, I know you're watching, so I'm sorry to talk about your team like this. The Alabama Crimson Tide. Yeah. You know the difference between those 2 teams? One has Cam Ward, one does not.
And one's got 2 losses and one does not.
Oh, yeah. That too. I'm sorry. That too as well. The 2 losses. So I again, and this ain't a pick on Bama session, because I know I'm gonna get cussed out by Granny. I love you, Granny. I know she gonna give me the work. It's part of the deal. You know, I might not get no stuffing on Thanksgiving. I hate stuffing anyway. It's all right. But I'm sitting here flabbergasted that we're even asking this question, Donald. I'm sitting here flabbergasted that we're even considering, how do we get in 2? What is our path to 2 when you've got 1 undefeated and 1 team that has 1 loss to an undefeated Power 4 team?
Yeah.
People will look at you crazy if you were asking this about Penn State. People will look at you insane if you were asking this about any other Power 4 team that is a 1-loss team. What's their path to getting in? What's their path? Come on, give me a path. Nobody else, no other conference can have a team say, hey, you're going to go undefeated except for a loss to 2 undefeated teams. Because BYU is undefeated right now, and Miami's going to be undefeated when they meet in the conference championship. If you lose to 2 undefeated teams and people kick you out, penalize you, ostracize you for it, then how the hell should Penn State be anywhere near the playoff? Somebody explain it to me like I'm 5.
They're in the Big Ten. That's how you not that makes any sense, but if my 6-year-old asked me about that, that's what I would say.
We love little man, but sometimes you just got to explain, son, the world ain't fair. A fair is a place where you go to eat terrible food that'll kill you and get on terrible rides that'll kill you. That's what a fair is, okay? Because that's clearly not what's going on here. This is not equitable. This is not about who's shown up and played the games and won the games. It's about, well, we think they'll win, which, Dono, you know what it's really about. You already talked about it. The teams who are the biggest draws. Because, again, there's no way that Bama is in here if they're not consistently one of the biggest draws in college football.
Yeah, and I give them all the credit when it comes to the brand name, right? It's the house that, and I know Bama was big before Saban, but Saban turned them into what they are. Kalen DeBoer is still there reaping the benefits of that when it comes to the benefit of the doubt that they get. I mean, I was just I was at a shop earlier today, and such a nice woman who was the shopkeep. So I didn't want to get into a CFP argument, but you know, she looked at me. At the time, I was wearing Miami gear from head to toe. She's like, "You're really repping that Miami." And then I'm like, "Hey, y'all ain't played nobody," she said. And I said, "You can only beat who's on the schedule." And then I said to her, because I assumed, you know, given I live in Florida, I'm like, are you Florida State or Florida? Because then I wanted to come back with how terrible either of her teams were. She said, roll Tide, baby. And I'm like, okay, well, you guys have enjoyed a long period of success. You're not so great this year. Other than that, I bit my tongue.
Again, Georgia was a great win for that team. I am not taking that win away.
Yep.
I'm not devaluing that win. But at what point do losses count? At what point do they count? Because if you say that one win is so valuable, it overvalues or it devalues two losses entirely, then now we need to have a conversation about, well, why don't teams just schedule extremely tough and lose a game or two? Because what does it matter? What does it matter? Schedule really tough, lose a couple games. Hey, it's okay. If you've got one good win, schedule 3 great teams on your schedule. Everybody, schedule 3. And that way, when you get your doors blown up by 2 or you lose to 2 and you win 1, well, congratulations. You've got that one. You've got that one to hang your hat on. Again, as it stands right now, they have lost a quarter of their games. As it stands right now, they will not be in the SEC championship game. And as it stands right now, would you feel comfortable betting your mortgage, hey, Bama wins out? Would you feel comfortable with that?
No, I would not.
And yet somehow we're sitting up here still being fed. There's no way that Bama misses. Oh, they're number 11 for a reason. Come on, man. Stop it. Knock it off.
Well, when we come back, speaking of schedules, we'll take a look at the ACC football schedule for this week. Which are the most critical games that could impact the conference standings, or maybe impact the college football playoff? You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. Guys, I love Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, then you'll feel at your best tomorrow. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, get a good night's sleep. And step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. Get a 15% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off. Oh, speaking of deals, we always have the deal for you on Game Time. If you haven't signed up yet, why not? This is the only ticket app that Kenton and I use because we're getting the best deals, especially the closer you get to kickoff, first pitch, tip-off. Guys, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the all-in pricing feature, which shows you the total upfront, no surprise fees at checkout on the Game Time app. I love to get a panoramic view from my seat right there in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. How about that for a deal? Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. It's always game time here on Locked On ACC. And all right, so looking at the slate this weekend, unfortunately, the later you get in the year, the stakes for certain games get higher. For other games, not so much. Like Friday night football, Cal on the road at Wake Forest. It's not the most impactful game for the conference standings. Cal is 0-4 in the ACC. I guess that's what's significant. Cal is finally looking for that first conference win against Wake Forest, who's 2-2 in conference. And to be honest, Kenton, there's been a number of occasions, including when my Hurricanes went out there to California, where they were very close to getting that first conference dub. They had a very close game against Pittsburgh as well. So you think this is the week that Cal gets it done?
Wake Forest has proven to be better than most people thought at multiple points
Yeah.
this season. As much as what everybody wants to say, oh, Wake Forest isn't beating teams are beating themselves. Well, guess what the scoreboard says at the end? It says that they got a W. And with that being said, this is the most snake-bitten season I have ever seen from a team in terms of Cal. I have never seen a team that every single time something happens. Some of it is out of their control. Some of it is in their control. It's always something, though. It's a missed targeting call, or it's a your offense doesn't want to do anything in the fourth. It's a your field goal kicker misses from like 30 yards out. It's always something. And with that being said, they don't fix their can't get right-itis in this one. I got Wake Forest.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes even when the officials get a targeting call right, which I think that no call was correct, it was very close. Maybe it could have gone the other way, but I see what you're getting at there. All right, so elsewhere, we've got number 4 Miami at Georgia Tech. Hurricanes are 11-point favorites. The big question mark we have on this game, and I've been trying to follow this every day, Kenton, still very vague, as he should be, Brent Key in Atlanta, about whether or not his starting quarterback Haynes King is going to play, because I think we've seen the last couple of weeks, it's been evident how much he means to that offense. He's been dealing with a sprained right throwing shoulder. Now, on the plus side, Georgia Tech is coming off a bye week, so he's had a little extra time to get healthy. I don't know if Georgia Tech wins, even if he does play. Miami's favored by 11, but that would make the game a lot more difficult for Miami if King plays.
Just out of curiosity, how big was Miami's last line?
It was 20.5.
Okay, and the line in this one is what now?
11.
Yeah, Haynes King is playing.
That's
playing.
That's what I figure. Yeah.
In the words of John Wick, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Probably Haynes King. With that being said, Haynes King, Haynes Boxers, don't matter. This ain't happening. This is not going to be a thing. Miami is going to roll in this one. And whether or not Haynes King plays, they win by more than 11. They cover this one.
Yeah. All right. So this one, Clemson's not completely out of it when it comes to ACC championship games, CFP. They need help, though, right? They need, losses by Miami and or SMU, but they still have plenty to play for. They're going to look for a revenge game on the road at Virginia Tech. Unfortunately, it's not a night game, and I say that because Virginia Tech, it's night and day there. It's so to speak, it's such a more raucous environment at night there in Blacksburg. But I don't know the do you know the status of Drones and Tootin, who missed last week? Because that's obviously going to make a huge difference. I'm guessing they're probably thinking they're playing because Clemson are favored by 6.5. I would imagine if Virginia Tech was going to be without 2 of their most important players, the spread would probably be bigger than that.
Yeah, those 2 are probably playing, but more importantly, how much does Clemson have to play for really? And who are they when their back is up against the wall? Yeah, because this is a situation where they've got to come out fighting for their lives in this thing. Yeah. If you want a shot at the playoff, your shot at the playoff, there is no at-large for you. That's done. Which means 2 things. Number 1, you need to get to the conference championship. Number 2, you need to win the conference championship. What does this team come out as? With that being said, even with Bishal and Drones, not sure if Virginia Tech has enough in the coffers to win this one. I'm not sure if they got the firepower to get this one done. I got Clemson.
All right, try not to cheat on this one. Maybe you already know, but when Florida State goes down to South Bend, up to South Bend from where they are, when they go to South Bend, 7:30 p.m. On Saturday, what would you say is the spread for that game?
What is it, like 32?
It probably should be 26.5.
Yeah.
Probably should. If I wouldn't argue with 32 if that's what they put. I mean, Notre Dame doesn't have the most prolific offense in the world,
but they need style points. They need style points.
Yeah,
and they're going to get them.
They do.
They need style points, and it's going to be New York Fashion Week in front of Touchdown Jesus, because they're going to have every bit of style on display in this one. Notre Dame not only wins, I'm not sure if Mike Norvell has to catch an Uber back to Tallahassee because they don't want him on the plane after the stench that they leave that field with. Notre Dame rolls massively. By the way, they released another video, a different video of Norvell doing the race thing. Stop recording that. Stop.
So embarrassing.
I'm begging you, Florida State. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I've got a theory on that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was immediate. Like, it wasn't like Florida State, like they didn't put it out. It was like the 24/7 or War. It might have been War Chant who put it out. My theory is they're putting those videos out because they're trying to get him fired. That's my theory.
Close them damn practices and stop letting them videos leak. Each one looks worse than the last. And last time it was only like 3 people racing.
Yeah, this time one guy raced him this time. And the one guy raced him and he lost. Mike Norvell, he's like 40-something years old. He's beating his players in races.
Oh, it stinks in here.
Too funny. Well, we will see that $63.8 million buyout is going to loom very, very large for the Florida State Board of Trustees. Well, we'll talk about more of the games coming up this weekend on our next episode. Tomorrow, we're going to assemble the squad. So you want to be around for that. Awesome job as always. Kenton Gibbs. Make sure you check him out on X at TGIF_Kenton and on Locked On Wolfpack. Find me on X at Alex Dono and on Locked On Canes. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On ACC, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.